This next book is from 1997, and it is called Xena the Warrior Princess, Prophecy of Darkness. Darkness. Oh. This book was my favorite of the Xena series so far. I think it's my the fourth book that I've read in this series. And published in 1997. And so each book kind of leads right into the other. They're, after their adventure, they're on the road to the next adventure. So it picks up right after. So after the third book, Gabrielle and Xena are, they've moved on from, I think they were in Athens or whatever it was. And they're out in the bush making their way to wherever comes next for them. And they set up camp one night. And in the middle of the night, they hear some rustling in the bushes. So Xena's like, stay back, Gabrielle. And turns out it's just two villagers that stumble into their camp, harmless guys. And they're like, oh my God, we've heard of you, Xena. You're exactly who we're looking for. So then they tell her this story. In this little village nearby, there's a seer, a prophet, who has mentioned a guy that is going to perform a ceremony, and that's going to end the world. That's going to unleash all sorts of evil in the world. And it's not because he wants to do that. He has good intentions, but he doesn't realize what he's doing, and it's going to be bad. So they said, like, the prophet said that you two are the key to stopping this. So can you come talk to her? And the more they talk to him, they're like, okay, this sounds somewhat legit. So let's go see what this seer is all about. So they get to this little village and they meet with the seer. It turns out it's like this really young girl named Alessandra, I think her name was. She's like, I don't know, 11, 12, something like that. And so they're both kind of like, what? They were expecting like a grown-ass man or woman, right? So they start talking to her, but the more she talks, the more they realize, okay, no, this chick is legit, and what she's saying is concerning. So all they know is they have to go south to a place called Avernus, something like that, which is near the entrance to Hades. Y'all know what Hades is? In the ancient Greek times, it's the entrance to hell. Hades is hell. Hades is the god of blood and death and the underworld and all that bullshit. So Xena has heard of Avernus before and is a little concerned upon hearing the name and realizing kind of what it's all about. So they decide to hit the road. So the three girls hit the road, and along the way they figure more and more stuff out as Alessandra, keeps relating the stuff that she's felt and seen about this vision. So eventually they figure out that there's a young man who's going to do some sort of ritual that is going to open Hades and destroy Cerberus, the three-headed dog that guards the gates of Hades against all the spirits getting out. And they know they have less than a month to get there, and they have a long way to go to get to Avernus. So basically it's a big long road trip. They stop in one little village where they're all religious zealots to some god, and they barely escape there without a lot of violence, which was a good little fight in that little village. And eventually they do get to Avernus on the night of the full moon, when the spell is going to be completed. And they end up finding this castle that they were told about. Looks like ruins. They go inside, they undo some traps, and they enter a room where this guy, I forget his name, but basically this kid grew up in this castle in Avernus, and his father died about a year before. His father was, and Xena knew his father, or knew of his father, and she's like, yeah, no, he's a super nice guy. He's a scholar. He's very smart and intelligent. They would never do anything like this on purpose. And so she assumes the son is the same and has just been misguided. So this guy's father's work was all about the spell they had. The way they interpreted it was it would open the gate to Hades, destroy Cerberus the guard dog, and allow all the spirits to get out and become good, and all evil would leave the world. So obviously a little misguided, but it comes from a good place. So Xena and Gabrielle and Alessandra get there right after he's performed the spell. So the room that it's in has this big wall that has all these runes and weird things all over it. So when he did the spell, all this smoke started to appear, and the wall suddenly disappeared, and Cerberus was there, and he was tethered to the underworld still. And then the way this guy interpreted the spell, he's like, when I say these words, Cerberus will be destroyed. Cerberus was not destroyed. He was only let off his leash. So suddenly this guy's got a three-headed evil guard dog in his room. And it's not looking like this spell is what he thought it was. So Xena and Gabrielle and Alessandra get there just as this is happening. So basically what has to happen is Xena needs to keep Cerberus busy while they find a reversal spell to tether him again, get that wall back up, prevent all this from happening, which of course Xena and Gabrielle do because they are pretty fucking slick. This was a really, really fun book. There's something about Hades, and the spirits, the river Styx, every Cerberus, the three-headed guard dog. There's something about the underworld that is just so fascinating. And when I was in university, I took 2 years worth of what they call classics, so basically Greek mythology, and they were probably, if not my favorite, close to my favorite classes that I've ever taken across my whole scholastic career. It was just, learning about the gods and all their stories and everything that happened. So when the Xena show and the Hercules show and everything was right up my alley, because it was like, oh, I know that character. But like I said, there's just something about the underworld, the mystique and the mystery of it, and the evil and the danger and the hellfire and brimstone, right? So this book really grabbed me. I've loved all the books so far, but this one by far was like latched on, and I flew through it in like 2 days. It was just like boop, done. And I can't wait to see what the next one brings. Hopefully more Hades, but we'll see. Next up, fourth book in the Young Indiana Jones series, called Young Indiana Jones and the Secret City. Released in 1990. Like I said, fourth book in the series. And in the book before, Indy got into an adventure with his friend Herman from that boarding school they were going to that they hated. So in this one, Indy's dad is going to Turkey to study more stuff on the Crusades. And he's like, I'm taking Indy along, and you're going to be in my hair, so bring a friend. So he brings Herman. So they get to Turkey, and Henry Jones goes off to do his thing. So Indy and Herman go out into the city, which is at the time, I don't even know how you say it, but Constantinople. It's the only way I can think of to say that, which eventually became Istanbul. So they go out to explore, and there's all sorts of ships in the dock from countries all around the world. But they notice a Russian one, and they notice something weird going on. A dinghy from the Russian ship is going to meet another dinghy in the harbor. Some sort of transfer goes on with a big case, and those guys then come to shore. So Indy and Herman, by Indy's idea, of course, Herman's a bit of a wuss, follow this guy and want to find out what's going on because it seems suspicious. So then they follow this guy back to their own hotel where they're staying. But just then, Indy's dad comes in and says, "Pack up, boys, we're leaving." And they're like, "What?" I said, "Yes, they don't have what I wanted here, so we're going to go up the way to a place called, I think, Konya or something like that. The library there is going to have what I need." So they're like, okay. So they book a train. They get on the train. Who fills out the fourth seat in their compartment? But this big Russian guy that took the transfer in the dinghy the day before, or the morning of, I guess. So they get into a conversation with him, and he makes some ominous remarks. He seems harmless enough, like he's trying to be, I'm just a rug merchant, and blah, blah, blah. But they get a feeling there's more to it than that. And he makes some ominous comments about going to Konya and how it's it's not safe like Constantinople is. Little boys need to be a little more careful. So they're kind of like, don't exactly trust this guy. So they get off, they go to Konya, and Indy gets these, they dress up in kind of the native garb so they can blend in and just go out and explore. And Indy really wants to see a whirling dervish, which are those religious guys that do all those dances and whatever and spin around like crazy. They're in the street, they see one, so they follow him. And he goes into this building, so they see if the door's unlocked, they go in. It's unlocked, but he's not there. So then they explore a bit, and then Indy finds a trap door. So they go down, and Indy and Herman see all these guys down there. They're chanting. This guy's doing his dance. Something weird's going on. They get spotted by the Russian guy who sneaks up behind them. He's like, "You guys are so obvious. Like, I saw you the whole time. Like, what do you think you're doing here?" And they're like, "Oh, we just wanted to see a whirling dervish, and we're just having fun and whatever. Like, we didn't mean to intrude." And meanwhile, the Russian guy's onto them, right? So then he talks to the whirling dervish guy, who says he's the king of something, and he says, "Oh, these boys are innocent." And then they're like, "Oh yes, they're innocent. Perfect." So the boys are thinking, "Great, we're innocent. They'll let us go." It's like, no. So they kidnap Indy and Herman, and they take them with them, and they end up out in the countryside, going into this kind of expanse where there's all these weird structures. Like 100 years ago, I think Indy said, a volcano exploded and created all these weird structures. So they're being held captive by these guys. So they make their break once they get into this landscape that has all these weird structures. So like, we'll just lose them behind all these weird formations and stuff. So a big chase goes on, and eventually Indy and Herman find this hole in the ground, and they go down it, and they find this network of tunnels under the ground where people seem to have been living. And but unfortunately for them, all they've done by going down there, hi Fuzz, is enter the belly of the beast. So who's waiting for them down there but this weird king guy, and of course the Russian. So that's when they're like, "Okay, we'll tell you our plan because you're not going to survive it." So basically, this group of Turks that have been living under the ground for, I think, thousands of years, they're waiting for the planets to align, because when that happens, they can do this ritual with this knife, where they spill the blood of an innocent on these rocks, and it will grant them ultimate power with this knife. They can't be defeated, they can't be killed, whatever, and they will basically rule with the power of this knife. And Indy's like, "That's hogwash. Like, you seriously? You think that knife's gonna like bring you world power?" And it's like, it happened twice before, it can happen again. So it looks like the jig is up. The ceremony's about to begin. They're ready to spill Indy and Herman's blood. But that's when Indy makes his move and uses his whip to knock the knife out of this guy's hands. And Indy and Herman end up starting to play a game of monkey in the middle with the knife. But the king guy reaches out to grab the knife, but it accidentally cuts him. And because he's not innocent like the boys are, it's an adverse reaction when his blood is spilled with the knife, and he instantly like turns into like a pile of ash. So then the Count, the Russian guy, is like, "Oh fuck, these Turks are going to be upset that their leader just got killed, and they don't like any outsiders, and I'm an outsider, and now that he's not alive, they're going to get me too." So then Indy, Herman, and the Russian guy need to kind of team up to get out of these caverns while everybody's still in shock that their leader died. But of course, the Russian guy turns on them along the way, so Indy has to outsmart him. And in the end, Indy and Herman escape, make their way back to the city, and pretend like, "Oh, yeah, no, just a normal day of playing out in the city, like the boys we are. No danger happened at all, Dad." All right? Oh, I love it. Indiana Jones is such a cool character, and they made such an awesome universe with those movies. Just the settings and all the Nazi stuff, and just it's so good. So reading these books is just like, because your mind can take you right to that time and that place, even though this happened a little before. It's just, they're so fun because you're there, right? Awesome books, and quick reads too, because they're meant for children. which I am a large one of those. Last up, a video game, and it is one of the best games I've played in the last little while. It is called Katana Zero. This game was released in 2019, and I downloaded it on my Switch. My buddy Simon, it was one of the games we played recently at his house, and it was so much fun that it's always going on sale. So it went on sale again for really cheap. So I'm like, I'm just gonna fucking get it and play again because it's so good. And yeah, it's the story's really, really mysterious. So you're this samurai guy in this futuristic like Armageddon type landscape. Like everything's broken down and in rubble and shitty. Like something bad has happened. And so as the character moves along in this game, they talk about the war and stuff. So some bad stuff has happened. And so basically this guy, you go out and play a level, and in between you talk to various characters. You go home to your apartment. There's this young girl who's always in the hallway, and she comes into your apartment, and you talk to her, and then you always make a visit to your therapist in between, and he's the one who gives you your orders. So he gives you a dossier at the end of each session. This is your next target. This is who you have to kill, sort of thing. And then each level is you going after this person that he's indicated. And at the end of each session, he also gives you this medicine because you're always kind of glitching out and stuff and whatever. So there's something mysterious going on. You just don't know what it is at the beginning. And your character has this ability to slow down time, predict the future. So you have all these abilities while you're out doing your thing, outside of just a normal swinging a sword and running and jumping, right? You have these other abilities. And as each mission is undertaken and each threat is eliminated, you get a little closer to the truth of the story, because you end up having these dreams and you tell your shrink about the dreams and you're trying to make a link to what's going on. So I don't want to spoil the story for you because it's really cool. I can't say anything because I will. So, but in terms of the game itself, it's an action, side-scrolling action game that's also kind of like a puzzle game in a weird sense, because each section of each level is you enter from the side and you have a room or a combined set of rooms in a row that you have to get through to get to the other end and escape, and you have to eliminate all the guys, whether they're soldiers or whatever, in the process. So you can't just sneak through and leave. You need to eliminate everybody. So each enemy has their own capabilities. Some of them have guns. One of them is just like a one-shot gun. One of them is like a spread shotgun gun. Some of them are bruisers that just want to fist fight other guys, have shields. And there's also environmental objects like these lasers that go back and forth that you have to kind of dodge roll through to survive. So there's all these hazards and stuff, and you need to figure out the easiest way to dispatch each enemy and get yourself through that room and out the other side, because different enemies need to be approached differently depending on what kind of gun they're shooting, if they're protected with shields, whatever. And to help you along the way, you have your slow down time ability, you have your dodge roll that helps you speed up a bit and dodge stuff, and you have your sword, which can deflect bullets back at them. And you also have a lot of environmental objects. So you can throw bottles and stuff, napalm that cause explosions. Some throwables are better than others, smoke grenades, that kind of stuff. So you need to plan, okay, I'm going to deal with this guy that way. This guy's right beside a door, so I'll just burst through the door will crush him. There's all sorts of ways you can approach a level, but probably only, 1, 2, or 3 ways you can really get through it with any sort of ease. And by ease, I'm being a little sarcastic, because the game is not easy, especially as it gets long in the tooth. So yeah, it's just a crazy fun game. A lot of thinking, a lot of executing, but so much fun. And the cool thing about it also is that each experience you have with the characters you talk to can be different. They give you options for lines which will lead the conversations in different ways and produce different end results. Especially with the shrink, it's fun to piss him off because he's such a little weasel. So I liked making him enraged. So when me and Simon were playing it together, we were playing nice with him to try and make it easier, hoping it would be easier to get through the game. So when I played it at home, I just did nothing but piss the shrink off. So when I was playing through the game, especially in the last few levels or so, it totally changed. I ended up using a whole different character that we saw in the game when we played it together, but we never got to control him. So like there's all sorts of different ways you can get through the game too, all sorts of different endings and ways to get there in the end, right? So really neat game. I think anybody who likes side-scrolling, more kind of old school looking games would enjoy this. It can take a bit of an adjustment to get used to the way you have to approach the levels and especially your slowdown ability. But once you get used to it, it just becomes super addictive. You just want to keep playing it and playing it and playing it. And I was kind of hoping they would release a sequel, but nothing that I've heard yet. But anyways, definitely worth a pickup, especially since it's always going on sale. Like it's cheap to begin with, or cheaper, but it's always going on sale. And it's like, I don't know how much I got it for, but under $10. Like it's fantastic for a fantastic game. So highly recommend. That's my 5 things and I'm sticking to them. I've already got to start on the next 5, 1 in the books, 4 to go. I'll be back as soon as I can. Peace.
Meow.